Alright, this is going to be my thoughts about combat rogue in arena and, well, my first impression. I've recently played combat rogue with the heal druid and it didn't go as well as I hoped it would go, but it wasn't also complete dog shit. So I'm just gonna go over some things I have noticed, and obviously I've played for the first time, which is probably the main reason why it went as bad as it did. But there are some, let's say, there is hope, right, for combat rogue. There's some potential. Obviously, I still have to learn some stuff. There are some macros I still have to get down. A lot of things didn't work out in the first few games. I probably lost like 2 or 3 games just because I didn't know how certain abilities worked. But now that I have a little bit of, like, we played maybe 15 games or something, it's not a lot, but it actually taught me a lot in terms of mechanics of some abilities, like killing spree is kind of crazy. And also other kind of cooldown usage you wanna, well, keep in mind. Now let's just go over the talents real quick. And keep in mind, I'm gonna build this combat rogue such as I would play it with a healer. Usually, most combat rogues, if I see any at all, like they are really rare, they are mostly played in a double DPS comp. But I'm gonna play it with a healer, so my talents are gonna look a little bit different. But I can mention some things, like, for example, if you look at endurance, decreasing the cooldown of like sprint and evasion is not gonna be as useful if you play double DPS, because the games are not just, they're just not gonna go as long. But if you play with a heal, the stamina is gonna be very valuable, and also you will use evasion and sprint probably more often than double DPS. Yeah. So there are some standard things we probably like can't remove, like something like dual wield spec. Most of our damage will always come from melee, and this just buffs it very well. Also improve Sinister Strike, no brainer, our main command point generator. We can't really go without it. Improved Gouge, really strong in my opinion. I only go 2 points just so we can go a little bit further. But you could go for a 3rd point. It's really nice. I like it. I use it a lot. And it's nice if you don't play Assassination and you sometimes accidentally get like a deadly poison stack on someone you want to gouge, and then the gouge is just gonna break off prematurely. But you don't have this problem as combat because you're not running deadly poison, which is a nice thing to keep in mind. So gouge is gonna have its full value most of the time. Now we want to go for riposte, so we go deflections 3 out of 3, and then riposte. Riposte, on paper, a really nice spell. Like, it gives you a combo point, it's only 10 energy, and it does more damage than a Sinister Strike. Obviously, the debuff is also nice against any melee units. The thing is, though, if we skill this, which I haven't skilled it yet, this is a PvE spec. We are at 5% parry on general. This is our base. We add another 6, so we get 11%, which basically means around every 10th attack will be parried, which, you know, if you're playing against warriors, it can be kind of lackluster. And something that's also annoying, if you finally get a parry and then you use your riposte, just can be dodged or parried as well. So it's not like overpower that always goes through. It's just another Sinister Strike basically. But if it goes through, it's nice, gives you the combo point, gives the debuff. It lasts for 30 seconds, which is, wow, it's a long time, to be honest. And it cannot be dispelled. It's a physical debuff, I think. If it procs, it's very nice. Also, one interesting thing to keep in mind, let's say you are attacking a priest who's not going to attack you back, and so you're probably not going to parry any of his attacks. But if you get attacked by, let's say, a rogue or a feral, and you parry one of their attacks, while you are attacking the priest, you can then riposte the priest for extra damage. a nice thing to keep in mind. So always try to face your opponents just so the riposte procs and you can do more damage to the healer. Next one, endurance. Obviously we pick it if you play with a healer. You don't have to pick it if you play double DPS. I'm actually not sure what you go for. Probably one more point in gouge and then maybe 1 point in, maybe you do go 1 point just for the stamina. But yeah, it's really nice for a healer comp. Now the next row, I think improved sprint feels really good. One of the worst things in Arena is if you are slowed and you press sprint. Yes, you're gonna move faster, but it's still not gonna be fast. It just feels bad to use sprint and be slowed at the same time. But with this, you get the full value of sprint, the 70% movement speed immediately. Probably you're gonna get slowed at some point, but you will probably catch up to your target. At which point it doesn't really matter if you're slowed or not. Then we have lightning reflexes. Nice talent again, which gives us dodge, which is really nice. It synergizes with like unfair advantage, which we will come to. And the 10% melee haste, we take that as well. And 6% dodge is just nice to have. We keep in mind with deflection 6% and this 6%, we get another 12% mitigation. And I think here I have lightning reflexes skill, so I have 30% plus the other 11%. We will be at 41% melee hit mitigation basically, which is kind of high in my opinion. So if we can always face our opponent, there will be a lot of attacks that we can dodge / parry. Obviously 10% haste is nice. Now, improved kick. Like the first time I've read this, I didn't think much about it. 2 second silence is probably the worst silence in game, but it is still a silence, right? Like if we compare this to like the priest silence, who has, I think his silence is 5 seconds and on range. 2 seconds doesn't sound that long. But here's the thing. I think the silence of the Shadow Priest has like 45-second cooldown or 1 minute. Or I think it's 45. We have only 10-second cooldown on our kick. So technically speaking, we can silence every 10 seconds. But, you know, there is diminishing returns. So the second kick or the second silence of the kick is just going to be 1 second. And then you just have to wait the full 15 to 20 seconds to get the R removed. So you can silence again for 2 seconds. And yeah. And here's the thing, like, do you really wanna use your kick just to get a 2 second silence in? I'm not sure if that is worth it. What you can do, you can technically, let's say you're fighting a healer, you just kick him, get the 2 seconds, let them sit the 2 seconds in the silence, then you go for a vanish cheap shot and then a kidney, and by the time your stun lock is over, you will have kick again, and then either you can kick again for the 1 second silence, or you just keep your kick to actually kick an ability and, well, lock them, which is probably the most important use of kick, to actually lock them off their respective school they are casting, right? Now, obviously, if you get faked a lot, this goes up in value. So if a healer, let's say, casts a heal and then he cancels it, and then you kick him, it's not going to be completely wasted if we have this talent. It's just gonna have a 2 second silence and then you can cast for free. But yeah, I will try this out. If you don't want to go for this, just go for aggression. I mean, technically right now we don't need to spec it, but we will end up having to spend like 2 points here or here at some point. This, in my opinion, is not as strong. Obviously, it increases your Sinister Strike damage, which is nice. Is 3% per talent point we put in, right? And also increases our Eviscerate damage. But Eviscerate we almost never cast. It's a really bad ability. We would rather use things like Slice and Dice and Rupture and obviously like Kidney Shot and something else, right? Sometimes even, what was it called? Expose Armor is usually better than going for Eviscerate. That being said, next one, depending on which weapons you have or you want to play, you just go 5 points in one of these. I'm playing with axes, so I go Hack and Slash, which probably might be the best DPS decision for PvP. I'm not sure though. Blade Flurry, no brainer, we just take this. Now, weapon expertise, I'm not sure how strong this is. I don't think it's that good. Like, expertise is nice, especially if you're man fighting a lot. And getting 5 expertise per point is a lot. But keep in mind, expertise is useless if the enemy is stunned or if we're attacking from behind, which you also do if you're killing spreeing. So it's not really gonna help us in these crucial moments. So I don't like to take it. Blade Twisting, really nice, increases Sinister Strike by 5% instead of just 3. Plus, it gives us the chance to daze. So let's say we have Cripple Poison on someone and we daze them. Obviously the Cripple Poison is gonna take the effect because it slows for more. But if they get cleansed, let's say by a Paladin, they still have the daze effect on them, so they just can't run away as they would when, you know, the Paladin just spams cleanse on the target, which is sometimes really annoying. Obviously Freedom cleanses both, but yeah, that's another story. Now we need the 2 points that I've mentioned. Now you can go Aggression, I just don't think about it. I'm just gonna try this one out, see how it feels. Now the next row is gonna be really easy. Adrenaline Rush, no brainer. Vitality, really strong. This is also mandatory. Nerves of Steel, I think, is a must-have. This is also the reason why I considered going combat in the first place. Because we were facing a lot of rogues and disc priests. And the higher we got when we were playing at like 2.3k MMR, we were facing rank 1 rogues who would just decimate us with like almost zero counterplay that we could find. It was really bad. It felt really, yeah, it just felt bad to play against really good disc rogues. And what they would usually do, they would just stun lock you, do a lot of damage while they dance. If you trinket anything, you get a blind immediately. If you don't, you just get feared after the kidney. You just get sapped 3 times in a row, and then by that time your stun DRs fall off, and they can just open you again with like a 10-second stun. And usually what they do is just run around the corner, maybe get like 10 to 20 seconds uptime on the rogue, and then they will just rinse and repeat. Just maybe they get a gouge into a fear, into a sap, and then they will have the shadow dance up, and then will dance on you while they CC your healer, and it's just gonna feel horrible. You can't really do anything about it. Now, sadly, when I was playing combat, we didn't face a single disc rogue, which was kind of, well, unlucky, to be honest. Which is the whole reason why I went for this build in the first place. But yeah, we faced some rogue priests, which kind of is similar. They kind of want to kill you in this stun phase, this 10-second stun, cheap shot kidney. But we had a good win rate against them anyways. But this felt really strong. If I'm stunned, I just take no damage at all. And I usually don't have to trinket the kidney, so that means I cannot get blinded, and I can't just switch on my druid. So yeah, I think this is really strong, especially against all the rogue comps. This feels bad against, like, we obviously lose some other like nice things like 20% and then 6% damage reduction here, right? But this is really strong against rogues. These are just stronger in general in terms of tankiness, but it is what it is. Now for the next row, I'm not sure if you should take throwing spec. Like the only way I see this to be useful is like if you open a mage and he blinks away and then he wants to sheep you or something and you just kick him with this. But it's really hard to get combo points once they are kiting you. You can do it once, and I don't think if you're not using any cooldowns like sprint or vanish maybe, it's really hard to get to them. I don't know. I will try it out though, just to see how it feels. Combat potency is really nice, gives us a lot of energy. But yeah, I just want to see how this feels. I might skill out of this once I've got a good feeling on how often I can use this, and just go 2 points in here. So we can just go 4 out of 5 and then go for the rest, right? I'll just try this out once. Surprise attack. I feel like this is really strong. Again, like the generic thing is like 10% more damage on Sinister Strike, which is, you know, just nice. We take those. And then your finishing moves can no longer be dodged. That means we can actually kidney shot every druid and rogue in the face and always hit. Now they still can parry, but it is gonna be rare. This feels really nice. Especially as combat rogue, where we only have one vanish every 2 minutes, so it's gonna be hard to open on a rogue with a kidney. But with this, kidney shot will always hit. Unless it gets parried, right? But yeah, it's probably not gonna happen. Now, this, I was really hyped about this. Unfair advantage. Every time you dodge, you swing with your main hand, which sounds good on paper. But when I was looking at my damage meter, unfair advantage was really doing like not that much damage. Like maybe was 7 to 8% was usually the range this was in. Sometimes it was even under gouge in terms of damage, which is, yeah, it's kind of pathetic. But one thing I have noticed later on is it actually also procs your poison, which obviously doesn't show up in the damage meters. So if we keep this in mind, it's actually not as bad as I thought. So yeah, this has some potential. This is especially good like if you're playing with a healer. Double DPS is probably really bad, but with a healer you can like man fight like a druid or rogue and just always get these extra swings in, which also then proc your poison, which does extra damage, right? It can be really nice, especially if you have a slow main hand. You like, if we use evasion with this talent basically becomes offensive cooldown. We get so many swings in with unfair advantage. It feels really nice. And then we have Savage Combat. I think this is a no-brainer. 2% damage per point for everything. Just nice. Oh, only physical, to be honest, but most of our damage is physical as well. And then Prayer on the Weak. Also no-brainer. The only problem with this is obviously it's not active all the time, which can be annoying, especially if you're fighting from behind. It feels really bad as a combat rogue. You just want to reset, get back to 100% life, and then go in with like maybe an opener, maybe a stun or something, get that percentage of the enemy lower, and then you want to go for like a killing spree. I think it feels really wasted if we just if we use all our cooldowns but we are low health and we just don't get the extra 20% crit damage, right? Now, killing spree, obviously we take this. This is probably the main reason why we would go combat at all, is to get killing spree. This ability is, well, it is insane, and it is also really hard to predict sometimes. If you don't know, if you're using it for this first time, it can do some crazy things you would never expect. Now the AI on this is just non-existent, so if you have a target blinded next to your main target, doesn't matter, you will just jump there, kick them out of the blind. They don't care. Like Killing Spree, this is not a smart ability. You really have to put whatever target you want to Killing Spree in the right position before you use it. Also, like this, you will also jump on targets that are cycloned. Like Killing Spree doesn't care. It just goes on whatever you technically can go. And if there's a target that is cycloned, it will just go there, waste all your attacks, and you will just be sad. So keep that in mind. You will really have to set this up. What you usually want to do is isolate your target, make sure there are no pets nearby, there are no, like, I don't know, there's no one nearby who's CC'd and you don't want to break the CC, and then you can go for it. So yeah, just keep that in mind. If you use it a few times, you will see the crazy things it can do. Like one time I wanted to go for the main target, which is, you know, this one, and I had this one in my target. I would press Killing Spree, but because there was someone else in my range, which I didn't even notice, Killing Spree, even though I had this in my target, would just go over to this X, and look at this. It actually, I don't think I hit this target once. I was here, I had this in my target, I jumped, first of all I jumped here, then I jumped here, and I never got to this target. In like, oh, it's just, I don't know. Even though this is my main target, right? I had this in my target, I pressed the button, and Killing Spree is just like, okay, what's in 10 yards range? Oh, this is in 10 yard range, this is in 10 yard range, and this, let me just roll the dice. Oh, you end up here, you go here, and he checks again for the 10 yards. And then this, and then, you know, not a single Killing Spree on my main target. Just keep this in mind, right? You don't want to be next to someone who's close to you in terms of the range of Killing Spree. It can be the case that these two are far away, so that you wouldn't jump. Once you're Killing Spree in this guy, you would not jump to this guy. But just make sure you're not in range of this guy once you start your Killing Spree. This is something I actually failed a lot, and my Killing Spree would just do whatever, yeah, whatever I'd actually like to do. It's kind of crazy. So you really have to be conscious about using this ability. Also, don't use it on like mages who still have blink, or like rogues who would likely vanish at that point. So you can't, it's just gonna be wasted. If they vanish, it's just gonna be gone. If they blink, you can't really jump after them. So keep that in mind. Obviously, we would go into sub next. Like we take 3 points in here. I think like these points are kind of standard. Obviously, Dirty Tricks, really strong. Elusiveness, and then Serrated Blades, really strong for our build. 9% armor reduction, or ignore at least. Really strong. And the standard build would just go 5 points in here. Now, what I like to go for, obviously, again, like things like this, not that strong in double DPS, right? You might just go out of these and then maybe go into more damage, like something like here, right? Obviously, I'm playing with the healer, and this would be like the standard combat spec. Now, I like Ghostly Strike. This is a nice ability because it's basically a little bit better than Sinister Strike for the same energy, and it gives us a dodge buff for 7 seconds. And as we mentioned, Unfair Advantage really likes when you dodge, so you get these extra attacks, and the synergy is just nice to have. Like, we can just use this on cooldown basically. Just think of this as a Sinister Strike that you would rather press than Sinister Strike, and it has a 20-second cooldown, and that's it. The same energy cost, a little bit more damage, and gives us a nice dodge buff, which synergizes well with Unfair Advantage. Now there is another thing I like to go for, which is we take 1 point out of Malice again and go 1 point in setup. Now I just like setup a lot, especially obviously if we go for the dodge here, we can go for the dodge here as well. So the two talents who benefit from us dodging. We have 6% dodge here, which is nice for the talents, and then we get these 15% from here as well. It's just nice to have. It's not gonna be as good as obviously going for 3 points. I don't think it's worth it to go for these 3 points in here, because honestly I feel like combo points on a combat rogue don't feel as good as combo points on an assassination rogue, for example. If we have excess combo points, like if you already have our bleed up, if you already have a slice and dice going, if you already stunned the target, the next best thing technically would be an eviscerate, right? And even that we don't really want to do. We never really want to go for an eviscerate unless we can kill the target. I mean, it's just nice to have. I like to have this. It's not gonna proc that often, but if we use evasion, it's gonna proc a lot. We're probably gonna dodge every attack, and since it's only a 33% chance, it will still proc probably every 1 or 2 seconds, just because we're dodging so many abilities. And yeah, it's just nice to have 1 point, just because we kind of go into dodge with these two talents. And this just synergizes well. And this also, it's just nice to have, right? Now I think this would be it. This is probably what I will play with next. And I will see. Probably it's gonna be even better with the priest. I can see some plays where you just fear away one target, so you can killing spree someone who's isolated. I don't know. We'll see. Maybe I can find a priest who's willing to play with a fucking combat rogue. I would also like to go for like a play on a lower rating, just because I have almost no experience with combat rogue to begin with, so it would be nice to just go for some people who are not as good as well. And yeah. Oh yeah, in terms of pros and cons for combat rogue, again, it's really strong against rogues. I think this is the rogue killer, so to speak. All rogues take at least 50% damage from one killing spree alone. So if you get them low, I think killing spree is also best used as a finisher. So you just get them low, use all your energy, maybe get them in a kidney shot, use all your trinkets, look out for your trinket procs as well. Maybe have like a slice and dice going. I think you're also auto-taking during your killing spree animation. Maybe even have like an exposed armor on the target. Not necessary for rogues, but just if you like spend all your energy, you have them in a kidney shot, they're like 60% HP. The trinket is procced. Maybe you have an activatable trinket, right? You use your trinket, and then you go for the killing spree just to finish them off. And it's just one nice thing about killing spree that's not really mentioned in the text is you always attack from behind. So a rogue who has evasion will do nothing, because he will always by default attack them from behind, and he gets the full damage. Now the one thing that rogues can do is they can vanish, but if you have them in a stun, or if they just use all their vanishes, this will be a guaranteed 50% life destroyer, basically. This is, yeah, it's just a really, really strong ability. Also against like warriors, it will take like 20 to 30% HP. It's just really strong. What also something to keep in mind, this actually has a decent range of 10 yards. So if this is a mage, let's say, and I'm in a Nova here, and he's casting like a polymorph, and I know he already blinked, right? I was chasing him and he blinked away, and now he's Novaing me, or I'm just really slow and he's casting a sheep. I can just kind of use this as somewhat of a shadow step, but the range is obviously kind of gimmicked. Like shadow step, I think has 30 yards. No, it's 25, so it's actually not. It's twice as far, a little bit more than Killing Spree, but you can use it as a gap closer as well. And believe me, mages don't like to get Killing Spree on. You will probably blow an ice block with just one Killing Spree, even if they're like full life. It's really hitting hard. And yeah. Obviously, you have your other cooldowns as well. This is really nice about combat. You have some decent offensive cooldowns. Your adrenaline rush really strong. Build all these combo points. Use them for eviscerate if you have to. Doesn't really matter. Just go for a lot of sinister strikes. And also Blade Flurry. If you can cleave with this, you will do double damage for that time. And the thing is, even if you can't cleave, it's still a good ability. 20% attack speed. It's, you can just, if you can kill someone and you have good uptime. If you have this, slice and dice, you have exposed armor on them, and you can just have uptime, you will deal tons of damage. And maybe even finish them with the Killing Spree. Also, Killing Spree, you can dodge abilities. And you can dodge the sheep, you can dodge some projectile. Actually, can you? I'm not sure, but you for sure can dodge some kidney shots. If you might be in trouble, just use this. You can still take damage in it, so it doesn't make you immune. But you can't be stunned, you can't be CC'd. You obviously can also not be slowed, so it's nice to mitigate some of those things as well. So you kind of can dodge some abilities with it. I think like if you see a druid casting like Cyclone, just use Killing Spree on them and they can't Cyclone you anymore. I think, at least. Maybe I'm wrong on this, but I've never seen it happen, so. I think, yeah, in terms of cons, there are some heavy cons, obviously. Like, first of all, we have still no mobility, and it feels sometimes even worse. If we have sprint on cooldown, you are even worse than an Assassination Rogue. Assassination Rogue still at least has fleet-footed, so they get faster out of the roots and slows, and they have the increased movement speed. You have none of those things. All you have is your sprint, and that's it. If you don't have it, well, that's it. You're probably not gonna reach them. Now, one thing in terms of reaching Killing Spree, as I mentioned, you can do it, but this is your damage cooldown. You want to kill someone with this, not necessarily just close the gap. But yeah, if you're desperate, you can still use this as a gap closer. So you have some kind of way of closing the gap, but it is icky. You don't really want to use like your big damage cooldown just to get to your target. Especially not if you're running someone and you have full energy, right? Because you're not able to attack. You don't really want to use Killing Spree when you're full energy. You just always want to go for all your attacks, use your finisher, be at like 10-20 energy, and then go for a Killing Spree. You're probably gonna regenerate a lot with combat potency, and just the 2.5 seconds I think you are in this animation gives you another like 30 to 40 energy. So you'll come out of the Killing Spree with like a decent amount of energy to work with. That's also a nice thing to keep in mind. And yeah, I think, I still haven't. Also, one of the big cons is you only deal physical damage. Obviously, you have wound poison, which is nice. Where is it? It's here. It's gonna hit decently hard, but you are nowhere near the, I think that like the damage distribution of like an Assassination Rogue, who does a lot of non-physical damage that bypasses armor, obviously. You don't really have the problem too much as a sub, because you're just doing so much damage, doesn't really matter in your dance. But as combat, you really want to go for some exposed armors just to increase your damage. Especially if it's like a warrior or paladin. And then again, in terms of tankiness, yes, we have Nerves of Steel, and that's it. If we are just getting kited by, let's say, a Mage and Shadow, and all they do is just slow us, you will take full damage all the time. You don't have the 20% additional heal on you, and you also don't have this damage reduction node as well. So yeah, you are as squishy as it gets once you're out of stuns. But again, if you're in stuns, if you're getting hodged, you are kind of chilling, right? If you are in a cheap shot kidney combo, you are kind of chilling. Your healer will have a better time of keeping you alive with Nerves of Steel. But yeah, I think that's about it. Now, would I recommend this? I'm actually not sure. It is fun. Killing Spree is a really fun ability. And it's, you know, it's kind of like a shadow dance, but you can just take the hands off the keyboard. You don't have to press anything and just pray to the gods to crit the enemy down once you're killing spree. But it's for sure more difficult in terms of knowing when to use your cooldowns. Like, let's say you wanna go for like an adrenaline rush. You pop your adrenaline rush, you pop your trinket, you go for your blade flurry, and you're just ready to do some big damage. But then you just get CC'd. Like, you have to keep these things in mind. You can't just use your cooldowns just because you feel like it. You want to do some damage right now. You have to keep in mind, okay, am I on stun DR? Am I on sheep DR? Can I still get feared? Like, do they still have a stun or something? You don't want to pop all your cooldowns and then just be CC'd for like 10 seconds and waste everything. So you have to really keep your cooldowns in terms of the right time in mind. You cannot just... You can for sure just use them on the opener, so you get like a nice CC chain with like your adrenaline rush, and then just use your killing spree to finish them off. So I think a nice opener, if you're fighting a warrior or something, and he's away from a paladin, is important, right? You sap the paladin, you go for the warrior. All you really want to do is go for a cheap shot. The problem is we can't really get too many combo points to go for a kidney, because it's just gonna be very, very expensive in terms of energy. Like, if you use... Since we don't have Dirty Deeds, and we also don't have Preparation, another big con, honestly. We don't have Dirty Deeds, so getting combo points in the opener can be kind of tough. Like, 60 energy cheap shot it's kind of expensive. Like, you can go for it, like do like 2 cheap shots, 2 Sinister Strikes, and go for a 4-point kidney. I mean, you can do it, but I would prefer something like we just go for the opener in terms of just cheap shot them, give them exposed armor, use your trinket, right? And then go for like a killing spree. And you will deal tons of damage, even against like a warrior. This will be... it will be explosive, for sure. But it's also... Keep this in mind, your killing spree is only on like a 1.25... This is like 1 minute and 15 seconds cooldown. You can have this up in like no time. So if you use it as early as possible, you will have it up even sooner. And you can go for some big plays with it again, right? So it is, generally speaking, a good option to just go for your killing spree right in the opener, right? Maybe go for like a cheap shot, Sinister Strike, then expose armor, and then you dance with your trinket active. So you just use all of your energy, you go killing spree, get all of it back, use more of your energy, go for like a kidney shot then, and then maybe even pop your other cooldowns, right? Go for like Blade Flurry plus Adrenaline Rush. Use everything you can in the opener to build as much pressure as possible and get as many cooldowns out as possible. And then if they're kind of like, if they're out of trinkets, out of shield blocks, shield walls, you can go for the killing blow with your second killing spree or something. That I think is going to be the play if you're playing with a healer. But yeah, I don't know. I think I've rambled enough. I still have to learn a lot. This is for sure a fun build. It's again like if you're playing Assassination the whole time, it's just nice to play something else. And it was a lot of fun. Killing spree is a fun ability. It's also, I like to just see the big numbers you hit with like Sinister Strikes, and the killing spree is just going crazy. And especially against rogues. There are a lot of rogues right now in the ladder, and you just demolish them. It feels really nice. I just hope to test this on some disc rogue as well, because I think this is gonna be very strong against them as well. But yeah, that's it. I rambled enough. Yeah, see ya.